Hello, good afternoon. Can I take move? Okay. Hello. Wonderful. Does this work with a mask on? Awesome. Great. Well, welcome everybody, and good afternoon. Um, actually, I just want to start by just asking like a quick question, like how many of you will be taking a first year language or actually any language course this fall semester? Just like a quick raise of hands. Wow. Great. Wonderful, wonderful. Bravo. I think we're done here.
Okay, we can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
And I assume those are all hands for Arabic 101, which I'll be teaching,
And
right?
German 101,
Awesome.
sorry.
Awesome. Yeah. My name is Sam Liebhaber. I'm the chair of the Arabic department here at Middlebury College. And I just actually wanted to start very quickly by, I think, introducing what this panel is about. And again, we've just been talking about sort of improvisation, which is obviously a key component of language learning and language speaking. So I think our idea in putting this panel together was to provide some additional attention to really, I think, the unique and extraordinary things that we do in the languages division. So again, this is a languages division event. All sort of the language departments are a member of the language division. And I think we really do something unique here at Middlebury College, a couple unique things that aren't oftentimes recognized or acknowledged. And so we wanted just to give you a sense for what some of those things might be and really talk about how the languages division is critical to the mission of Middlebury College, which is to enable you to lead engaged, consequential, and creative lives. And I just copied that straight from the Middlebury website. I don't have that memorized. And I think a big part of that is moving past sort of a utilitarian approach to language learning. Language is more than just a tool for something else. It's more than just an ability to maneuver, to navigate a foreign city, to know how to get a taxi to take you from place A to B, or to go to a restaurant with your friends or family and impress folks on how well you're able to order in a different language. It's not about necessarily like blending in to somewhere else. It's not about telling other people what you believe, what you think is important, or what incredible ideas you have. It's about listening. And I hope that's something that we'll be addressing during this panel. And of course, we would love to take questions from you after we've had a little chance to introduce ourselves, to introduce the departments that we teach in, as well as the division more broadly. At Middlebury College, how many language departments are there?
9? I think
There's like 9 language departments, so there's 5 of us here, 5 different language departments within the language division. So just sort of going down, starting from my stage right here, maybe we can just very quickly go down and introduce ourselves.
Hi, welcome to Middlebury. I hope you're all moved in and looking forward to, we're looking towards this semester. My name is Randall Ganaban. I am a professor in the Department of Classics, so I teach Latin and Greek language and literature. And our department, and I'll say more about this later, it's unusual because we're a mixture of both the language department and the humanities department, and I'll talk about that more.
My name is Sam Liebhaber, and I teach in the Arabic department.
Hi, welcome to Middlebury. My name is Julien Weber, and I teach in the French and Francophone Studies department. I teach courses of language, of culture, and literature. And yeah.
Welcome to Middlebury, everybody. My name is Natalie Eppelsheimer, and I'm in the German department, and I also teach sometimes whenever I can in the comparative literature department, classes on the Holocaust, Holocaust literature, on exile and refugee and migration, but also on sustainability issues, in addition to language courses, of course. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Van Order, chair of the Italian department. And in the Italian department, we have a wide range of courses that cover literature, obviously, Dante, Boccaccio, Petrarca, all of the classic 14th century authors, but also contemporary issues. We have many courses recently on food studies and immigration, and we also offer courses on cinema and cultural competency widely defined.
So in addition to the languages represented at this panel, there's Chinese language, Japanese, there's a Luso-Hispanic Studies department, a Russian department. Let me know if I'm missing anything. There's a lot. Japanese, yeah, Japanese studies, yeah. I think that's it, right? Yeah. And Hebrew, yes, thank you very much, yeah. Wonderful. Would any of, shall we sort of lead off? We thought we would each speak maybe again, you know, for a couple of minutes about what we think we do, why we think what we do is really unique within the Middlebury curriculum. Would anybody like to start off?
Yeah. So to me, one of the most valuable aspects of learning a foreign language is that it offers a unique opportunity for building community. And I speak here from my experience as a language learner as well as a language teacher. Studying a language during your first year, your first semester at college, is going to allow you to connect with other students, with other professors, and with other teaching assistants in a very different way than in other courses. You will get to meet more regularly. You will get to hear about each other's lives, everyday lives, likes and dislikes. You will get to know each other in a very concrete way, and you will eat each other at language tables, participate in cultural activities. And what's crucial about all this is that you will do all these activities in a language that is still new to all of you, and that you will learn to use and understand a little more every day. And if you think about this, it's an incredibly enriching experience to be able to engage in a learning process where your learning depends a great deal on the everyday connections you make with others, with each others, and where these connections are kind of the building blocks of your learning experience and your knowledge acquisition. And I think that's what we strive to achieve in immersive language classrooms, is to create class atmospheres where learning and community building are really tightly woven together. And I think that process is very enriching, is very healthy, and it's very useful when you start studying and living in a new place. So that was, I think, to me, the first important point about immersive learning and the kind of immersive learning we practice in Middlebury. It's also important to stress that first-year language classrooms are very inclusive. There's the question of whether such or such knows more about you or speaks better than you or has a more elaborate background than you is completely irrelevant in a language classroom. The material is new to all the people that start studying together. Everyone is in the same boat, and everyone tries to communicate with each other, to use new structures, to understand each other, and that can be also very liberating in a first semester at college. So language learning allows to build community. It opens up inclusive classrooms, and I would add also that it provides the opportunity to engage in an experiential process of learning. You will get to learn language and to perform language in very different ways, through skits, through role plays, through speeches, through songs. So learning happens every day, but it doesn't happen every day in the same way, right? And it's very refreshing because it solicits different parts of your brain, not only one mode of learning, not only an analytical mode, for example, but very different modes of learning that are solicited to learn a language. So that's the aspects of immersive learning that I wanted to kind of make you aware of as you're considering whether or not to take a language class here. Now, I'm sure that we will all talk about the different ways in which studying a language and a different culture is also a way for you to it offers you a great opportunity to acquire historical knowledge and critical tools that are going to help you to engage with social political issues in a more informed manner. And that's another aspect of learning a language or a different culture in Middlebury. In the advanced courses of French and Francophone studies, for example, you will get the opportunity to study colonization and decolonization movements from a very varied, from very different standpoints, from metropolitan standpoints, but also from post-colonial or indigenous standpoints. And to give you a concrete example, one of the historical events that typically recur in many classes in many advanced courses of the French department is the Haitian Revolution. You know, the Haitian Revolution, an amazing world-impacting event that happened roughly at the same time as the French Revolution, and that resulted in the creation of the first Black-led republic. So it's a very, very important world event. Now, in our department, in advanced courses, you would typically encounter an event like this in a class, for example, on colonialism in French Romantic writers. And there you would focus on the impact that this event had on, you know, French writers that live very far away from Haiti. But then in another department, in another course, you could very well in the same semester or a semester later study the Haitian Revolution in a course about Black Caribbean writers. And you would here engage and study the legacy that the Haitian Revolution has left in contemporary Caribbean art and politics. So studying in a department of French and Francophone studies, to talk about the example that I know most, it is going to expose you to a variety of perspectives, to a variety of insights on historical events. And that's very important to help you sharpen your own critical skills. We do not privilege one perspective at the expense of the other, and I think that's very precious in an education in order to sharpen your critical skills and engage in current debates about decolonization, for example. So that's the few points that I wanted to make, and I don't know.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Fantastic. I'm not going to reiterate what my colleague, Professor Weber, said about the community, but it's something that is very, very important, and I want you to keep that in mind, that the community, especially in the first years and second years, language courses is something we cannot even phrase high enough. I think students really value this a lot, and if you do take a first-year language, you will notice that this is something you're still going to be friends with the people with whom you started learning the alphabet in whatever language that you're going to take. I also want to add a little bit about the power of language. So very often we say that when we start a language, it's just the alphabet and information about yourself, and that the content and the cultural learning comes much later. That's not true. That was true probably when we learned languages 20, 30, 40, whatever years ago. But language teaching has changed a lot, and cultural learning is happening from day one in your classrooms. So you will be asked to reflect on your own positionality. You will be able to, and you will be asked to reflect on your own cultural framework of references, to approach different perspectives, try to understand different cultural, ethnic, religious, national perspectives. And we do this right from the beginning. Well, I cannot speak for all the language courses, so I know we're doing this in the German department. I know Italian is doing it. I know that French is doing it, and I guess also Arabic. Yeah, he's nodding. So again, I can't speak for everybody, but again, thinking about classes that help you to reflect on your own cultural framework of references, of your own positionality, and the power that language has. And Professor Weber already talked about the colonial legacies that we have, and that's also inherent in language, and we keep struggling with that. And we teach inclusive language right from the beginning, gender neutral language. And this is difficult in so many different language classes, but this is something that you will be faced with very, very early on, and definitely in German 1 and probably in French 1 and Italian 1 as well. So the power of language is important, and again, as Professor Liebhaber said, it's not only about the utilitarian aspect. What is it that the language can do for me, for my later career? Think about what learning a language and about other cultures can do for you as a human being, right? So I don't want to take over the whole thing, so I'm going to pass it on.
I'm just going to continue with that idea a little bit here, and you know, thinking about what learning a foreign language can do for you as a human being, I think is sort of essential to the way we go about teaching here at Middlebury College. As a reminder, for these are languages with the goal of full immersion in a foreign country, in a university setting where you are going to be indistinguishable from other students in that country. So you learn Italian for 2 years here, and you go off and you're doing full immersion in an Italian university, or French, or all the other languages as well. What happens in this process is you're going to discover yourself in a kind of mirroring way. Your foreign language identity is going to be slightly different than your English language identity, and that dialect or dualism that's going on between those two identities will help you form, I think, a mature understanding of otherness. You're going to be able to reach out to other cultures and also reach out and understand other individuals much more easily, much more profoundly and deeply on a personal level. And I think that that's a skill set that will serve you well throughout life, including in your professional career, because what's happening now is that many companies are really searching out for people who know how to learn and know how to work with others, more than specific skills. So that's my 2 cents to add to what's been.
I would like to add one more thing, because you mentioned study abroad. Do not think that you should only take a language if you can study abroad. Even if you don't plan to study abroad, there's still lots of value in learning another language. So, and you don't have to become a major in a language in order to study abroad. So all of us have many students in physics, chemistry, biology, art history. So many more who go study abroad. So first of all, learn the language even if you don't plan to study abroad, but you don't have to become a major in order to study abroad, okay? Okay, thanks.
As I mentioned earlier, I teach in the classics department, so I teach Greek and Latin, and these are languages, of course, that don't have the conversational components that we've been hearing about from these other languages and language courses that you can take. So I just wanted to focus on at least one aspect that the study of a language that isn't quite spoken anymore can still be very useful for the way that you think about the world, think about yourselves, think about the ideas that are important to you. In studying a language that is not spoken, we are especially interested in looking at how the nature of the language affects the way that people develop thoughts, construct ideas, conceptual ideas, and societal values. So we look at the study of these languages not simply as a way to read, ultimately kind of read and discuss important works of literature and culture and history, but also to look at how the use and our understanding of the language can give us greater insight into the culture and how language intersects with cultural ideas to create different types of literature, different types of, and express different types of societal values. So, I think that for studying languages, even if there is not that kind of colloquial aspect, there are still ways in which the learning of these types of languages will give us great insight into the cultural ideas and values of those societies, and they in turn help us reflect upon how our ideas, how our values differ. I should also add that in classes such as ancient Latin or Greek, they are still taught, very intentionally, and there is the camaraderie that you find in the other languages too. But the goal of these courses in particular, we see is tied especially to the overall goal of liberal arts colleges and liberal arts education, that is using language to explore other people's ideas and the ideas of other cultures.
Wonderful. I'm actually going to sort of relate kind of an anecdote that's going to initially appear just completely unrelated to what we're doing here. But if you bear with me like a minute or two, maybe you'll see a connection. And when I start off, I may sound a bit like a crank. But again, just bear with me on this. If you were to travel around locally within 5, 10, 15, 20 miles, you'll see little signs by the road that talk about keeping local schools open, save our school. This is currently a lot of the school districts locally are closing their elementary schools. And again, this does relate to the Arab world, like I promise, I'll get there. I'm not just sort of like an angry parent trying to navigate the elementary school system here. What we hear from local politicians, from thought leaders, in the media, in school boards, is that there are simply not enough students to justify maintaining these small elementary schools in Ripton and in Ferrisburg and elsewhere. And this has been going on for like a couple of years now. And so like 2 years ago, we had the Arabic TA from Morocco who would actually visit the schools and would talk about them. And he came back to me one day and said, Sam, why are they closing all of these schools? In Morocco, we like open schools. This is a little surprising to me. And of course, what we hear again and again, it's not enough students to justify the cost of opening up these schools, as though somehow the blame were to lie with the local population for not producing enough children. In other countries and other parts of the world, there's a word for that. It's called austerity. When social services are cut, social services are cut and tax breaks are given to the wealthiest and corporations. There's a word for it, austerity. But you could spend days and days and days looking through the local news press, and you will not find this word used to describe something that's clearly happening. Now, these elementary schools could stay open if funding them were a priority, but they're not a priority, so they get closed, and then of course it's because there's not enough students going there. I think only in America, and primarily only in the Anglophone America, is that accepted as a natural state of being. Things get cut, social services get cut, and we do not use this term austerity. This couldn't be further from the case in the Arab world, where the term austerity, taqashuf in Arabic, is widely discussed, widely debated, and widely protested against. There are regular demonstrations against taqashuf as a social, economic, and political phenomenon. And by the way, you can find similar sort of a social awareness of taqashuf, austerity, elsewhere in Latin America. The Gilets jaunes in France. Germany has an incredibly strong tradition of labor unions that have long resisted austerity and taqashuf. One of the things I enjoy doing in one of my Arabic classes is having students do presentations. They did some, there were the protests against austerity in Chile 2 years ago, similar protests in Lebanon and Iraq. There were protests in Greece not too long ago, about 10 years ago. And of course, you may be familiar with this concept, the Arab Spring, right? Which ultimately was a product of opposition to this austerity politics. Of course, giving it the name Arab Spring makes it it removes it from this broader global phenomenon that is not represented in the English language. We do not talk about austerity in the English language. It's the strange thing. Sure, if you read Mother Jones or other sort of far left publications, you will come across it. But for the most part, I would say in the white American mainstream, the term austerity is not used to describe the economic circumstances we live in. Why am I going on this rant? The point is there is knowledge production. There are debates and there are discussions that are happening in Arabic, that are happening in German and in Spanish and in Portuguese, in just about any language you can imagine, except for the English language. Now, our curriculum at Middlebury College is essentially in the English language, except for the language division. We're the only division that is offering a curriculum that is not English, where you can access and connect with these debates, these powerful ones, these entire sort of realms of knowledge that are just not represented in English. So to me, at least, this feels like the greatest thing a language division can do for our curriculum is to tie you in to debates and to words and vocabulary that are commonly spoken outside of the English language and yet are rarely spoken and rarely heard in the English language. So that's my rant. I hope it all came together at the end. I was kind of winging it there. All right. Wonderful. I think any other any questions that you may have? And of course, there's the academic orientation happening tomorrow. So if you have questions to individual departments, we or the other folks affiliated with our departments will be there as well for specific questions. But it would be great to hear some questions or comments from the gallery.
I do have one, just sort of shifting gears a little bit. I have a note here that's asking one of us to tell the students what they should do if they do not get into the language that they're hoping to get into tomorrow. I realize that this semester is particularly tight in terms of registration. So we can all possibly just chime in a little bit in Italian. You certainly should just contact me. We have a desire to accept as many students as we possibly can, including the possibility of opening up another section of Italian 101 if that's necessary. But the first idea I would say is definitely contact both the instructor of the particular section you're trying to get into and the chair of the department.
You can do exactly the same for the German department. So I'm the chair. I'm not teaching German 101 this semester, but my colleagues will, of course. We have 2 sections and we hope to accommodate everybody. If you cannot get in, please send me an email and also an email to the instructor that you CC.
Yeah, it's the same for French. So I'm the chair also, but I'm not teaching 101. So it's either contacting the instructor for 101, contacting both actually, the instructor for 101 and the chair.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 sections of first year Arabic. We've generally been able to find spots in one of the 2 sections. So if you don't get into one, it's great if you could be flexible to get into the other. But for the most part, we've never had problems getting into Arabic. If for whatever reason you can't, by all means, let me know, let the instructor, send an email to Lori Patton, the president of the college.
Well, I have great news for you. If you have any trouble getting into a fall language class, classics department's beginning language classes start in winter term. So you could take ancient Greek in winter term.
I can just follow up with that question. So let's say they contact Let's say they contact you and you're just full up. Look at the crowd, okay? What if you're just full up and you can't open any more sections? Is there an opportunity for them to begin a language or to continue their language in the spring? This is what these students are going to want to know. Thank you.
In Italian, we also have an accelerated course in the spring that combines all 3 semesters into one semester. It's a very intense course. A few of the languages, I know German and French have this, I believe, as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But so that is intended in our case for students that have a fairly good background in another Romance language.
So theoretically, we have a Turbo Deutsch, the German, like the TGV there, and the Espresso Italiano, the accelerated class for those who already have experience. But again, this email should go to the president of the college or whoever. Because of budget cuts, we won't be able to offer one next semester. So if you cannot get into 101, we'll try to get you into 101, and otherwise, unfortunately, you either have to go to summer school next year or wait for a year. But we'll try to find you a space.
Yes, it's the same for the TGV. Unfortunately, it has already left, so it's not going to be possible this year to give a 105 course, an accelerated course. So it's a question to ask administration, yeah.
If I could just give sort of the glass half full to end this idea a little bit, if you can't get into the language that you were really hoping to take, this might be an opportunity to try something completely new, or one of the languages that are not quite as popular. And that sort of serendipity might end up being something that changes your life. So don't try to define yourselves before you go off and discover who you are.
My colleagues are so polite. We'll do everything we can to get you into Arabic 101. If you happen to be around right now, definitely this would be the time to start. You don't want to put it off too long, just because there is a sequence, and it can get hard to start up. But if it really comes down to a choice between Intro to Microeconomics 101 or Arabic 101, obviously take Arabic 101.
Hi, so I have heard that once you start a language class, you have to stay with it, including in J-term. Is that true?
Only, to speak for Arabic, only for the first year of Arabic.
Same for, yeah.
I believe that's true of all of the languages. It's different for Latin and Greek, but for the language division, the 101, 102, 103 sequence has a mandatory J-term class.
Yeah.
And you, as first-year students, will not have other mandatory first-year classes in other divisions. So that will not create a conflict.
Same in German, and I want to just say, J-term is J-term. This is so much fun. Yes, you do have language every day for 2 hours, but the level of the learning that's happening, the proficiency you achieve after this 4 weeks of intense learning in the first year, in the first J-term is just fun. Students really, they love J-term and the daily get-togethers, and they can see the progress that they're making, and you can really tell that after J-term is really the moment when they start having conversation, just like anywhere outside and with the students in higher classes. So this is something that don't see this as something that, oh gee, I have to do a J-term. And there are so many more J-terms that you do have to take other classes if you want to do basket weaving or boat building. It's all good. You can do this. But this first year, I think it's a great opportunity to just be also with the others in the class and just continue the sequence and just get this proficiency. I think it's fun. I taught it several times. I enjoy teaching it. I really love coming into the classroom every day, and we sometimes even make coffee because it's just you do it in the morning.
I was just wanting to clarify about if we're worried about getting into a language class, should we email you now or wait until we don't get into it?
Wait.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to be clear.
But it would be great tomorrow if you could come to the academic forum. Just
Yes,
introduce yourself
exactly.
so that we have an idea already and that we can have
Yes.
some heads up. If we have 20 students who say, I would like to take Italian, German, French, Arabic, or Latin. No, you have to wait until winter term, sorry. Then we might start sending some emails.
So if you weren't planning, so I didn't take the placement exam for my language because I wasn't planning on taking it, but I changed my mind. Is it still possible to like start? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talk about language tables, are those scheduled into the times of the class period or are those separate?
They're separate, yeah. They typically take place after the second or third week, and they are separate from class time. And they sometimes, I don't know, it depends on the program, they count in participation, so they, yeah. Sorry? It's lunch, yeah, it's lunch, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would also just jump in and say that at least in the Arabic department, we take a pretty casual approach to attendance at the Arabic table. First-year Arabic students are not obligated to go for the fall semester. So if you are worried about scheduling, that wouldn't be a problem. But at least from where we stand, you're not going to be penalized if you miss some language tables because there is something else going on at lunch. The language tables are meant just to be a fun and informal opportunity to use the target language. They're not meant to be a punitive or stressful thing, or certainly not a scheduling or logistical hassle for you.
Also to add on to that, so there will be several students who were in your shoes or in your seats the year before. So many students who have just gone on to year 2, French, I don't know, German 2, for example. They know exactly how it feels to be there as a first-year student. So in German, I think we start in week 6 that we ask students to attend the language table, but just play a little sponge, just catch up a couple of words. You can ask for things. The students in the upper levels, they will pantomime everything to you. You will know all the food items before they come up in your textbook. Did you know that already? So you are not forced to engage so much. It's more a learning opportunity and show off that you already can say where you're from, what your hobbies are, and perhaps you can even say the street number, something like whatever, and talk a little bit about food. So this is again a great opportunity and just to have this community and also meet other students who started the year before, and they might give you some very helpful advice on language and cultural learning. So.
If we took a placement test, how do we see which class we placed into?
You should ask the chair of the department.
Yeah, you should get an email. I know we sent it out, so I don't know.
For
our
French?
Yeah, for French, you'll be informed at the academic forum. So that's at the academic forum that we communicate the tests and that we talk about what classes you could take. And yeah.
If there isn't enough interest in a class, will it still run?
That's actually a question, I think, for the college's administration. Yeah.
We haven't had that happen in Italian.
Yeah. So get out there and register, man.
I'm wondering if we plan on studying abroad, do we have to take the language that we want to study abroad in that country every semester and the first J term until we study abroad, or can you take a break? And also, if you start that language and want to study abroad, does that mean you're pretty much guaranteed to get into the language classes after that first semester?
I think I can take a stab at that. Yes, once you start a language and you're committed to study abroad, you will be getting into the other classes. I can't imagine that not happening in any of the, certainly not in the languages represented here.
No.
The other question is has more to do with what level you start off with. For the language requirements for study abroad change from department to department, so you would have to ask probably tomorrow at academic fair to confirm exactly what that is. Generally speaking, if you're beginning a language, you would have to go through the first 2-year sequence at a minimum for study abroad.
Like if you haven't taken like a language before and like this is your first time, how difficult do you think the course load would be? And like what would you recommend to help you before classes start?
In terms of the workload, yeah. You know, and I'm going to speak really from Arabic, and it's hard for me to speak for the experience for the other, language departments. First year Arabic, the first semester of the first year, for the first 6 weeks or so, I would say that there's a fair amount of homework. I usually tell students to expect up to 2 hours a night of homework. That goes down significantly once you've mastered the Arabic script. But here's the exciting thing: you'll be able to master the Arabic script in 6 weeks, which is pretty cool. Learning a language is, of course, there is a lot of work, but it's also not the same kind of work that you would have in a seminar, in a class where you're doing lots of like research papers and things like that. It's a very different style of work, and I don't find that it necessarily like puts you oftentimes in sort of those difficult sort of conceptual realms. So I think sometimes students can almost find it relaxing, just to be able to sort of, okay, think about how do I put together this sentence. It can be just sort of a fun challenge. So it's a very different kind of work, and I think one of the great reasons to take a language is because that work is so different from the other type of work you'll be doing in other classes, that it gives you kind of a nice break from like that heavy sort of, lots of reading or big, textbooks or labs and stuff like this. It's totally different. It's going to work out a different part of your brain than what you're doing in other classes. So, you might just want to sort of embrace that difference because, it'll be fun.
Sorry. Thanks, Sam. That was great. I would like to add something else to that. So think about you want to learn an instrument. So you don't learn how to play the piano by playing 20 minutes once a week. And if you want to become proficient in sports, you also practice every day, right? You do put the time in there as well. If you want to run a marathon, you don't start the day before to practice, right? So this is something, daily practice makes you proficient, and it's fun. As Sam said, there are so many activities, so many homework activities that are fun. You might have to record something. You might have audio activities. You might have to match things. You might have to write something. Sometimes it's just to fill in the blank, whatever it is, or just talk to somebody else in your class. We try to make this very communicative so that you can work collaboratively with others in your dorm, in your class. And so many of our students are getting together, they study together. So binge learning before the exam is not necessary. You meet every day anyway. So when you have a class from Monday to Friday and you have your exam on Friday, no need to do this binge learning, because you practice it every day, you have it. You practice it, you performed every day. So
yeah, I just wanted to add that in the beginning language sequence, you're going to know your grade every week. I mean, you'll know exactly where you stand in the class, unlike some courses where you're going to have a midterm and a paper, and you won't really know until week 7 or 8 where you stand. You'll always know what your grade is.
What do you recommend for someone who kind of wants to learn 2 languages? Because I know a lot of the classes are offered the same days of the week and the same times. So is there a way that you could do, not like a class, but a way that you could still practice a language?
My understanding is that you cannot start 2 languages as a first-year student, and it would not be recommended in any case. If you already have been placed into a higher level, it is possible to take one language at the second or third year level and another at the first year level. Besides that, if you're thinking about something sort of outside of formal coursework, you can contact the department and see if it's possible to engage with activities with the Language House or attend the language tables for that language.
Okay, so my question is, some majors like have mandatory study abroad, and I just wanted to know like how that goes with the other majors that don't have mandatory study abroad. Like when you go abroad, is that like is that credited? Is that considered like a course with like a different teacher like abroad? I just want a little bit more explanation on like mandatory study abroad. Like I don't really understand.
My advice, first of all, would be tomorrow at Academic Forum, talk to the person representing the language you're interested in taking, and also maybe you're talking about IP&E, International Politics and Economics. I'm not sure what the major is with mandatory study abroad. The idea here at Middlebury is, in any case, with very few exceptions, you can complete courses for your major abroad. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a philosophy major, you can take those courses in Germany or Italy or France or in any of the many destinations that we have. So it's not as if study abroad is separate from your course of study in the major.
Hi. My question is that if we are native speaker on a language and we want to take like history or like culture classes on that language, like sort of like advanced classes, do we still need a placement test?
Yes.
Can we still take it? Can we still take it?
Contact the chair of the department.
We have just a few more minutes, so if anybody has any other questions, or if our faculty panel wants to be thinking of something else they want to say as a takeaway before we release these interested students.
Okay, I'm back. But so okay, just for my like this may apply to everybody. So like in high school, you have like different languages go from like 1 to like 5, like in an AP and everything. And then here at Middlebury, it goes from like 100 to like 300 being like elementary to intermediate. Exactly. Like how do you guys like what is which? I just like it's just such a giant range. So I was wondering if you could like a little elaborate on that.
100, 200, 300, and 400 level courses sort of refer to the year of study. So first year, second year, third year, and fourth year in the languages. That's not true of all the courses. You will be right now on Friday enrolling in courses at the 200 level and higher probably in different departments. But as far as the languages go, 100 is first year, 200 is second year, 300 is third year, and generally speaking, there are many more 300 level courses than other courses because they include all the courses you're taking abroad if you study abroad.
Hi, this is a hypothetical question. So if you got placed into the like intermediate level, but at the first few weeks you find it really hard to keep up, is it okay to drop that and switch to the introductory level?
In Italian, yes, certainly, and I think that's true. If you find yourself really way over your head in any course, the best thing to do would be to speak directly with the instructor, and certainly if it's clear that you don't have the preparation, the instructor would then help you place into a different level.
Okay, we're gonna keep them brief here.
So if you take sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. If you like took like an AP language, I know it doesn't count as like credit, but can you use that as a placement exam, or do you also take a placement exam?
In German, you still have to take a placement exam.
Yeah, it's always recommended.
I think in general, if you have any questions specific to a language, go to the placement exam website and read the information about that specific language because they may not all work the same way, okay?
So going off of the second to last question about if you get into a course and it is too difficult based on what you tested in, does the same hold true if you go into a course and it ends up seeming that it's too easy for you? Good to know.
I'm not sure if this has been answered already, but how often do first-year language courses meet?
Every day.
Most first-year language courses, and I think Spanish might be the only exception, are 6 hours a week. That's 5 days a week, 3 50-hour classes, and 2 1-hour and 15-minute classes.
Okay, last one.
I was wondering at what point in your language learning here at Middlebury do you start to be able to look at living in the language houses, and how far along do you have to be to look at that?
It's my understanding, based on the sort of the policies of residential systems, that living in a language house is you need to be in your second year of studies at Middlebury. Is that correct?
Sophomore, yeah.
Yeah, so you can apply to live in a language house in the beginning of April of next year. Yeah.
So final thoughts from the panel. They've asked you some great questions. Is there anything that you want to make sure that you've impressed in their brain before they leave?
As you already said, Amy, go tomorrow to the academic forum, go to the different language departments, ask the questions that you have. It's in Kenyon Arena tomorrow from 1:30 to 3:30, and you will find many of us there, and you will find many of our colleagues there, and don't hesitate to ask any questions that you have.
Yes, I would say academic forums certainly, but also, this is obvious for some students and less obvious for others. Never hesitate to reach out to professors or chairs of departments to ask questions. And there are no silly questions. Just write an email and you will hear back very quickly.
Anything else from the panel? Is that good?
Thanks for coming.
Yes, and if you have further questions, they're going to stick around.